The concern was specifically around psychologically controlling behaviour, so things like fear-based motivation, intimidation, conditional approval, guilt, emotional withdrawal after mistakes, and making children feel their value depends on performance. So, why do some children look brilliant in training and then freeze during competition? Why do talented young athletes suddenly lose confidence, panic under pressure, overthink mistakes, or stop enjoying the sport altogether? A 2017 study involving more than 1,100 young athletes may help explain why. And the findings point less towards the child's mentality and more toward the emotional climate created by adults. So the research was led by Diego Ramis, I hope I've pronounced that name correctly, and the study was called The Effect of Coaches Controlling Style on the Competitive Anxiety of Young Adults. So as said, they looked at 1,166 athletes between the ages of 9 and 18 across several different sports, including football, basketball, handball, tennis, and synchronized swimming. But this wasn't a study about tactics or fitness or performance. It was a study about emotion. Specifically, the researchers wanted to know, does a controlling coaching style increase competitive anxiety in children? And if so, how? So the athletes completed a series of validated psychological questionnaires measuring three things. First, how controlling they perceived their coach to be. This included behaviours like using pressure, making approval feel conditional, withdrawing warmth after mistakes, relying on punishment or guilt, and creating fear around poor performance. Second, the athlete's motivation for playing sport. Were they playing because they genuinely enjoyed it, or because they felt pressure, guilt, fear, or the need for approval? And third, the researchers measured competitive anxiety. Not just general nerves, but three specific types of anxiety. So physical anxiety, things like tension and butterflies in the stomach, worry, fear of performing badly or disappointing others, and concentration disruption, difficulty focusing during competition. The researchers then used statistical modelling to examine the relationships between these factors. So here's what they found. The results were very clear. Young athletes who perceived their coaches as more controlling consistently reported higher levels of competitive anxiety. And this showed up across all three areas: more physical anxiety, more worry, and more concentration problems during competition. One of the strongest findings involved concentration disruption. In other words, the more controlling the coaching environment felt, the harder it became for young athletes to focus clearly under pressure. And that's important because many coaches respond to poor concentration by increasing pressure. But this study suggests the pressure itself may actually be contributing to the problem. The researchers expected that anxiety would mainly happen indirectly, meaning controlling coach, unhealthy motivation, then anxiety. And that did happen to some extent. But what they found was something stronger. The controlling coaching style predicted anxiety directly, meaning the emotional climate itself appeared to matter immediately. Children didn't just slowly internalize pressure over time, they felt it directly. Now here's an important clarification. This study is not saying discipline is bad, standards are bad, competitiveness is bad, or that coaches shouldn't challenge young athletes. The concern was specifically around psychologically controlling behaviour. So things like fear-based motivation, intimidation, conditional approval, guilt, emotional withdrawal after mistakes, and making children feel their value depends on performance. You can be demanding without being controlling, and that distinction matters. So this study helps explain why some children dominate in practice but struggle in games, become perfectionists, fear mistakes, shut down emotionally, or quietly lose their love for the sport. Sometimes adults, that's us, parents and coaches, interpret this as they're mentally weak or not resilient. But the research suggests we should also look at the environment surrounding the child, because children are constantly reading emotional signals from adults. So what we say and how we act, the expressions on our faces, matter, especially given that we are authority figures in these children's lives. The positive alternative. The researchers argue for what's called an autonomy supportive coaching style. That means coaches who challenge athletes while maintaining connection, explain why things matter, support decision making, allow mistakes without humiliation, and separate performance from personal worth. Not soft coaching, supportive coaching. There is a clear difference. A final takeaway. The biggest lesson from this study is young athletes don't just respond to drills, tactics, and physical training. They respond emotionally to the climate adults create around performance. And coaches are not simply developing athletes, they are shaping how children experience competition itself. I hope you found this information interesting and useful. If you did, feel free to subscribe, drop a comment below, or like the video, or all three. See you in the next one. Thank you.